figure of speech uses language creatively to express ideas more vividly and imaginatively than literal language. It uses words or phrases in a figurative way to produce a specific effect or highlight a point. The term figure of speech comes from the Latin figura, meaning shape or form. Just as a sculpture or drawing represents a form that may symbolize something more profound, a figure of speech shapes the literal meaning of words to represent something deeper or more illustrative. The figure in figure of speech, thus, refers to the way these expressions shape or mold language to convey more than the literal meaning of the words used. Now, let's dive into our 30 figures of speech. First up, we have simile. A simile is a direct comparison between two unlike things using the words like or as. For example, I wandered lonely as a cloud. Next is metaphor. Similar to a simile, but it implies the comparison directly without using like or as. For example, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Personification gives human traits to non-human or inanimate things. For instance, the wind whispered through the trees, or the flowers nodded their heads in the gentle breeze. Hyperbole involves extreme exaggeration. For example, I've told you 1,000,000 times, or I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Onomatopoeia uses words that imitate sounds. Think of buzz, meow, ding-dong, and tick-tock. Alliteration is the repetition of the same consonant sounds at the beginning of words. For example, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, or she sells seashells on the seashore. An oxymoron places contradictory terms next to each other. Examples include deafening silence and bittersweet. A paradox is a statement that seems contradictory at first glance, but it makes sense when you think about it more. For example, the only constant is change, or less is more. Euphemism involves using a mild or indirect word in place of a harsh one. For example, saying passed away instead of died, or let go instead of fired. A pun is a form of wordplay that uses words with more than one meaning or words that sound alike but have different meanings. For example, consider this sentence: I'm reading a book about anti-gravity. It's impossible to put down. Irony occurs when what happens is the opposite from what is expected. Look at the examples on your screen. Sarcasm uses irony to mock or convey contempt. Again, look at the example on your screen. Apostrophe involves addressing someone or something that is not actually present or able to respond. This device is frequently used in writing. For example, look at these lines from some poems, where the poets speak directly to the wind, an urn, and the sun. Metonymy substitutes one term with another that is closely related. For example, the White House announced instead of the President announced. Synecdoche uses a part to represent the whole or vice versa, like all hands on deck, where hands represent sailors. Litotes is an understatement using double negatives. Take a look at the example on your screen. Anaphora is the repetition of the same word or phrase at the beginning of successive phrases, clauses, or sentences. For example, in this sentence, the phrase "we shall fight" is repeated multiple times to create a rhetorical effect. Epiphora or apostrophe is the repetition of words at the end of successive clauses, like see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, or government of the people, by the people, for the people. Chiasmus is when the order of words in one part of a sentence is reversed in the following part. For example, never let a fool kiss you, or a kiss fool you. Anadiplosis repeats the last word of one clause at the beginning of the next. For example, consider these verses from the second letter of Peter in the Holy Bible. Antithesis juxtaposes contrasting or opposing ideas or elements. For example, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. Inversion, also known as anastrophe, is when the normal order of words is reversed. For example, in his novel David Copperfield, Charles Dickens writes, "Talent Mr. Micawber has, capital Mr. Micawber has not." A rhetorical question is asked to create a dramatic effect or to make a point rather than to get an answer. For example, "How should I know?" or "What's in a name?" Tautology occurs when a redundant or repetitive phrase is used, conveying the same meaning more than once. For example, "It was a free gift," or "repeat again." Climax arranges words or phrases in order of increasing importance. For example, "I came, I saw, I conquered." Anti-climax is the opposite of climax, with a sudden drop in significance. For example, "He lost his family, his car, and his keys." Zeugma occurs when a single word, typically a verb or an adjective, is used to connect two or more nouns, combining different concepts both grammatically and logically. For example, "The storm sank my boat and my dreams." Aposiopesis is when the speaker abruptly stops and leaves a statement incomplete, creating a dramatic or emotional effect. For example, "I'm so angry I could just." Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds in nearby words. For example, "The early bird catches the worm." Consonance is the repetition of similar consonant sounds in nearby words. For example, "Mike likes his new bike." And there you have it, 30 figures of speech in less than 8 minutes. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon for more literary insights. Thanks for watching.